This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
Hey everyone, this is Austin.
What's going on, guys? This is John.
And you're listening to the Voice of the Fans Sports Podcast. All right, we're back in action. I was on a little bit of a hiatus, hopefully back for now, and going over, talking to Purdue, and not quite the optimistic self for me. And I think folks will think, last year obviously was very high on Purdue, and I think the team spoke to that. They gave themselves chances in a lot of big games. The Ohio State win was really good. So just a lot of stuff. But this year, boy, it was a tough year for football. Obviously, I think there's still some positives, but really just not, I did not have a lot of confidence in the team. So I've been really spotty about covering their football games, so won't get too into it. But obviously, you went on the road to a tough Wisconsin team. Minnesota was really pulling for Purdue to obviously win because that would have sent them off title win, but it didn't happen. And Purdue kept it close in that regard. It was respectable, 17-24 at the half. But then Wisconsin ran away with it, 45-24 being the final. Obviously, Bryson Hopkins and David Bell winning Big Ten Freshman of the Year, second year in a row for Purdue, obviously is the biggest thing and the best thing. But, just the glaring issues, I think, is just the trenches on both sides. You can only go as far as those guys go for the most part. And it's been one of the areas that Purdue football has been severely lacking in. And obviously Wisconsin is a really tough litmus test, but I think it's just been consistent all year long. And really, just Jonathan Taylor had 222 yards and he's averaging 8 yards a clip. So that, I think, is enough. Obviously, very talented back, but that's just so much to give up. And you kind of think back to the closer Wisconsin games, not necessarily last year where he ran for 300 in overtime, but the 21-7 win or loss, on the road. He was pretty, for the most part, held in check, minus one big run. So, not too much to dive into against Wisconsin. I was expecting the loss. I think it was exciting that Purdue was able to kind of come out and make it very interesting, taking the lead at one point. But again, not too surprised that they went down and lost. So going into the IU game, the bucket game, obviously, Purdue was out of a bowl game. I really didn't think they would even get one at 5-7. I know sometimes that happens, but honestly, I didn't. I thought Purdue would win just because they kind of have Indiana's number. Indiana's looked impressive, but they've looked impressive before, and it hasn't always panned out for them. So obviously, Purdue went down very early. 21-10 and roared back to force overtime. But I think the biggest thing again was the line play. Samson James, before he got hurt, was just tearing Purdue up in the trenches in a wet game to start. And I think really too the defensive play calling, I'm not really sure what's going on there. Wap Fillier had a touchdown pass where it looked like Purdue was in man coverage and it was almost like a soft zone and no one was over the top of him. And he just ran a little bit of a wheel route, got open, scored. And that's the kind of thing that I think is more of a coaching side than a player side. I don't know if the players knew exactly what they were supposed to do. And it broke down that way when you don't generate pressure up front. You double George Karlaftis, you don't get any interior push. Derek Barnes had a really good game, but still, I think IU just, when it mattered most, Peyton Ramsey had a lot of time and was able to make key throws. And then again, the flip side, I know Xander Horvath had a monster game, which was good to see, but I think still overall it was just not a great effort by Purdue's line, and I think there were some freshmen that got to play in there as well. And still, there's just a long way to go. It really, just talking circles about this kind of thing over and over and over again. But it's really a long way to go in that regard. Aiden O'Connell obviously looked great. He had one interception, but 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4th string quarterback basically to start this year. He was behind Sindelar, Plummer, Sipe, and then it was him. Obviously all 3 of those guys injured, so he stepped up to the plate as a walk-on, and I can honestly say that he has a very good chance of competing to be the starting quarterback next year, even if Purdue looks to the grad transfer market for someone like Jake Bentley from South Carolina. But in the bright spot, obviously Bryson Hopkins will be playing on Sundays next year, so he'll be missed. David Bell, again, freshman Big Ten wide receiver of the year, following in Rondell Moore's footsteps. Imagining those 2 guys together next year is going to be a lot of fun. It's truly going to be hopefully a pick your poison kind of thing. And, kind of moving from that, where does Purdue go? Where can they go from here? What's the best way? And I really think it's going to start up front on both sides of the ball. And I think it's apparent that the coaching staff has identified that in the transfer market, and that's a really big area for Purdue to focus in on. And I think the offensive line is your large question mark. You lose Matt McCann. You still have Grant Hermans. You had a walk-on center who I think did, okay. Your tackle spot, Will Bramwell, Eric Miller, those guys, it wasn't consistent enough. Obviously, that was a revolving door a little bit. And then your guard spots, I think maybe Will Bramwell actually ended up finishing inside. I think Cam Craig saw some time. But no one was there to stay. And again, it wasn't, that great. So where does Purdue go from there? And obviously, again, the grad transfer market. I think there's a lot of interesting names out there that Purdue, should they be interested, could go after and go for. Obviously, there's the it's a community college. I can't think of what that transfer, junior college. The junior college transfer. I think it's Jahari Branch is a guy that Purdue is going in on heavy. And obviously, as the season's ending, a lot of grad transfers are moving around. And, I think another guy that I found personally interesting was there's a guard from Tennessee that played, I think, started all games this year, looking to move on from a pretty good Vols team that has found themselves. So that's another. He's a civil engineer. So obviously there's a little bit of a connection there. But a lot of guys, and then the guy, Dylan Powell from Stanford, obviously had a Purdue offer, was thinking about coming and then went to Stanford. He's got 2 years. So he's between IU, Purdue, and Rice. But, it's going to be, that's going to be the biggest thing. I don't think Lorenzo Neal is leaving. He was projected as being a top draft pick. Obviously didn't play a single down this year, recovering from that ACL tear he suffered against IU. And honestly, I just think it's so much harder for these big guys to bounce back from these types of injuries versus some of the skill players. So, not that I know for sure, but I feel like, rumor has it that he is going to stay. I think it would be good for him for his draft stock if he can show that he's the same player. 2 years ago, it'll be from when he was hurt. His draft stock will rise back up. And really, Purdue missed that beef in the middle of the line, really. Obviously, being 300-plus pounds, strong, and quick hands, good penetration, eating double teams, letting linebackers come over the top is a nice thing to have. And I think Anthony Watts and Lawrence Johnson did a good job developing. So I think it's still an area of need, but getting – the potential for getting Lorenzo Neal back really kind of solves that problem to a degree, which brings us, linebackers. Boy, Marcus Bailey is gone. Cornell Jones has been banged up. So that leaves you with Jalen Alexander as your most experienced linebacker. I think he definitely had some up and down this year. Would I be absolutely 100% all in on him being great next year? Not exactly. I think he could do it. He still needs to be, I think there's just there's a learning curve there. And really after that, who do you have at linebacker for Purdue? You got Ben Krul coming in from Wisconsin. Looks like a good size linebacker. That's another one that they're bringing in a lot of junior college guys and really looking at, to fill. So I think offensive line, defensive line, and linebacker, the biggest needs for Purdue. Mentioned Jake Bentley from South Carolina. Obviously, Nick Sipe medically retired. You don't know what Sindelar is going to do. So that's going to leave you with Jack Plummer coming off a broken ankle, redshirt freshman Paul Piferi, and then Aiden O'Connell. And then you have Mike Alemo coming in from New Jersey, who will be a true freshman. And
that kid's a stud, though. And pardon me while I'm late to the class, you can send me to the principal's office.
He's good, but it's just I think it's a rarity when a true freshman is able to play at the college level.
It's not what you want to see. You don't want a true freshman starting. That's just not a good sign. Shouldn't say it's not a good sign, but it's not really where you want to be as a program, starting a true freshman, unless he's like a bona fide like Trevor Lawrence type. And even he didn't start right away, I don't think.
No, he didn't. He sat behind Kelly Bryant for a little bit, but Malik Hornsbury, obviously, does he go to Baylor? Does he go to he official visited against Illinois, which was just a big shit show. But I think you can get away with it as a true freshman when you're athletic and mobile. You're able to extend plays and you've got the skill guys to get open downfield, which helps. And I think that helps any quarterback because you have really good skill guys that can play at a high level, get separation, and you can trust. I mean, I can't really imagine Rondell Moore and David Bell together, but the two reigning Big Ten freshman wide receivers of the year, Purdue taking that back-to-back, it is impressive. So I don't really know what to think of this Purdue program. It's really going to depend on who we can bring in offensively on the line and maybe at linebacker and if Lorenzo Neal does come back. But, I mean, if we don't really take steps in those areas, I don't see how we can have any better of a year this year than we did, for next year. And you have Memphis and you have Air Force on the slate next year for your game, for some non-conference games who are no slouches, and also a road trip to Boston College. So, boy, it's just Purdue football is still kind of a bit of an enigma. Again, I think the lines are the biggest thing. And again, I feel like I'm talking in circles, but that's just kind of the emphasis on it. The lines are the biggest thing. If they don't take the big steps, I don't know how far this team can go. But, to John's point, I guess he hadn't made the point on this episode for Purdue, but Brom is reeling in top 25 recruiting classes. Yeah. He should have, I would assume he'll have another one this year after it's all said and done and the dust settles. So year 4 is it's going to be all Brom guys for the most part.
Is it year 4 already?
It will be. Yeah.
Wow.
So
okay. That's fast.
Yeah. Yep. Because obviously you had Arizona bowl game first year, which was good.
Oh yeah.
Auburn blowout, not so good. And then bowl, which a ton of injuries this year. So year 4, it's going to be a lot of Brom guys. Obviously 34 freshmen saw the field this year. And there was a streak of like 18 or so scores at freshmen, only freshmen. So,
and it looks like you guys are 27th. And then did you guys lose that safety that last time? I think I actually had you on a show. Did he come?
Yeah, he went to Colorado. He went to Colorado.
Yep. I don't really know who else you guys are in on, but I mean, man, this top of the class, Malik Carr is a stud tight end, 6'4", 230. Can probably line up off the line as like a slot kind of guy and win some battles in there. I mean, he's physical. Local kid for me. He's just that Oak Park team is good. They also have Justin Rogers, who is a top 50 recruit. Tyreek Murphy, I think, is extremely underrated as a 4-star guy. He's one of my favorite running backs in the class. And then you got a guy like Michael Alamo that's just the top 3 of the class. I mean, You guys got some studs on this in this class coming in, and not to mention the studs that you already had from last year's class. I mean, you obviously Karloftis, David Bell. I don't know how Milton Wright played, but he was a stud. Marvin Grant was another stud. I don't know. Did he play for you guys a lot?
He had shoulder surgery, so he saw some action,
Gotcha.
and then he had surgery, so he redshirted because he was hurt.
But King DeRoe fun times. King DeRoe looked good.
Yes, he did.
Where'd you guys end up putting Jalen Graham at?
Nickel.
Okay.
I don't know what I mean, you lose Navon Mosley. Honestly, I'd like to see Cam Allen at corner. I thought he did great, but they've been playing him at safety. Marvin Grant, obviously a top-rated safety. Jalen Graham was a really good safety, but Jalen Graham's really big. Yeah. I don't know with the linebacker issues if you just make him a rangy linebacker, almost like a Justin Simmons at Clemson.
It is still criminal that you guys snagged Marvin Grant out of Michigan.
I mean, Michigan's been like a big. We're hitting, I think, Cass Tech and
what's crazy
the other school
is that we didn't even offer him. Michigan did, but we didn't offer him. We love recruiting out of King, but that doesn't. I mean, huge recruiting get for you guys. But two more guys I'm interested in. Why didn't that quarterback you guys got last year play? Paul, whatever his name is.
I mean, it's just the situation. True freshman. You know, he was an emergency quarterback,
gotcha.
I think, but it's so.
Well, I know because I'm just commenting because of the walk on versus that. But I mean, hey, if the walk on played well, so obviously the coaches know.
Well, he's also a sophomore, so he
kind of goes to the offense, and
he knew the offense. He wasn't getting the first team reps, but he knew.
Right.
You know, he had 2 years basically.
My favorite recruit of your class is my boy Garrett Miller with the hair. Did he see any playing time?
Not too much when you have a guy at an NFL caliber,
yeah,
Bryson Hopkins. So,
all right, as long as he keeps that hair.
Yeah, we'll see what happens at tight end. You know, Hopkins is going to be in the NFL.
Yep.
We'll see him on Sundays, and it's going to be Miller. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to even remember the other 2 guys, but yeah. So we've got 3 tight ends that are younger. That'll all be. Payne Durham is the other one, and then I can't remember Kyle Bilodeau. There we go. Bang, 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 bang. Those 3 guys who fills the shoes of Hopkins. I think Gus Hartwig coming in, All-American, playing in the All-American game, Under Armour All-American game, is a center/guard locally in Zionsville, Indiana. Should be a guy that I think can contribute right away. Same with potentially Greg Hudgens from the D.C. area. Let's see. Oh my gosh, where is he? Obviously, Ty Murphy, Malik Carr will probably contribute. Bryce Austin, a defensive tackle, is another guy I've heard that could definitely have a chance to come in and help. So I think some help's on the way, but again, some of these positions take time, and for what Purdue wants, I think the grad transfer market. There's a lot of names out there. Like I said, broke it down. A lot of interesting names, a lot of junior college guys. So I think Purdue's going to really attack that hard because they didn't get anyone this past year, and it really showed. So I'm putting a big question mark on Purdue football. Obviously, I'd love to see how it finishes recruitment-wise, but I just don't know. We could be very well be in the same spot if we don't improve along the front of both sides of the ball. But with that being said, going into some basketball, which has seen its up and downs as well. Obviously Green Bay, Chicago State, I think it's Jacksonville State, are 3 games that necessarily don't need to talk about. All wins, all big wins. I think the one that I'm circling is the Texas game, because I think Texas is just so inconsistent in their basketball program that losing at home to them, not great. And Purdue had ample opportunity to win and just could not finish and figure it out. On the road against Marquette, again, Purdue was winning down the stretch, just could not close it, lost by 10. Florida State, same thing, got taken into overtime against them, had ample opportunity to win, just did not, literally inches from winning, just didn't work out. Was able to hang on against VCU. So at that time, it was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 Purdue. Yes, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 and 3 Purdue. Virginia's coming to town. That game was tonight, and tonight is Wednesday, December 4th. And everyone remembers Virginia in the Elite Eight and Mamadi Diakate hitting the last second shot. The clock should have started after the missed free throw earlier than it did, which probably would have made Purdue win. We could probably have that debate over and over, but it didn't happen. Virginia wins the national championship. Purdue goes home after a heartbreaking loss. But so that's the rematch, right? Can Purdue make it feel better? They sure did. I think 69-40 win against the 5th-ranked Cavaliers. I was already talking with John a little bit. They are a top 5 team, but Virginia hasn't scored over 50 points in the last couple of games here. So didn't score 50 against Arizona State, didn't score 50 against Maine, didn't score 50 against Purdue. So 3 straight games, not 50 points, and they didn't break 50 against Syracuse, who is not really that great. So, I was just curious, is Virginia as good as their ranking kind of deserves? Obviously, defensively, they're well coached, but I just didn't know whether or not this win means as much, because is this Virginia team as good? I think that's more of a pessimistic view. Obviously, the number 5 team comes into your town, comes into Mackey. They beat you in the Elite Eight in a heartbreaker, and you stomp them by 69 which is nice, 69-40. And you had Sasha Stefanovic career high 20 points. Jahad Proctor had 16, Matt Harms 11. Eric Hunter Jr. hit some big shots. I thought looked good. 10 with 10 points. And then, Aaron Wheeler, I think still trying to work on some things. Trayvon Williams looked good with some big boards, some good points. I think the biggest question mark is Nojel Eastern. He worked really hard in the offseason to develop a jump shot. He just looks lost offensively. And this Purdue team at times has looked lost. They don't have that guy to go to late down games, and it's bit them against Texas, against Florida State, almost against VCU, and against Marquette. So you had stretches basically the last 5 minutes of the game couldn't score. You had no options. So I think I'm not going to hit the panic button on Purdue either. Obviously we were 6-5 last year before we made that run, and ended up being co-champs of the Big Ten with Michigan State, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, not again, sitting in the same spot as Michigan State, 5-3. Obviously, not as impressive losses as you guys, but here we sit, big win. And I think Purdue is well coached enough, and they've got the pieces that they will be okay down the stretch. They got Northwestern and Nebraska for that weird early conference games, which is whatever. So I think those are wins. One, Northwestern's at home, Nebraska's on the road. You've got a road game against Ohio University. Butler coming to Mackey will be a big game. I don't know if that's a neutral site game or not, but Butler looks pretty good. They are in the top 25. And then after that, Central Michigan, and then you get into Big Ten play. You have Michigan on the road. Michigan State comes to Mackey, and then you go on the road to Maryland. So, and Ohio State's look good. You have that as a road game. You get Michigan again at home, and Indiana's look pretty good too. So, that's obviously a split series there. So, the Big Ten schedule, especially with how well they've been playing, not easy by any means. But again, I think this team's going to be okay. They still, I think, if Nojel Eastern can figure out what he's doing on offense, obviously he's a great defensive player, but if he can finish or figure out that piece, I think Purdue basketball is going to be okay there. But I obviously it remains to be seen there. So we'll kind of see what goes on there. But that's really it as far as Purdue is concerned. But a big weekend with conference championships going on. John, I know it's something we do on the Michigan State podcast, but let's go ahead and do it on the Purdue one as well. Do you still have those games pulled up?
I do. I have it printed out. Right. I will start again. We will start with the Pac-12. We have Oregon versus Utah. Oregon had that tough loss against Arizona State last week. Utah is giving them -6.5. I mean, this is your show, so how do you want to do things? Do you want to do straight up, head-to-head, or are we doing it against the spread, or what are we doing here?
We can do against the spread. I think Utah covers against Oregon, and I think not enough people know about this team.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They've been impressive on both sides of the ball. I think their defense is really good too. And Oregon has been so inconsistent, and I don't know if it's because of injuries. You know, Justin Herbert has had probably more ups than downs, but he certainly had downs as well. And it doesn't benefit the team. But I know there's been a lot of injuries, especially for his offense and his weapons. So I just think Utah has a lot to play for. They have a chance to get into the playoff and potentially go up.
First Pac-12 team in the last few years to get in the playoff, right? The only team to do it was
Oregon. Oregon. Yeah, since Marcus Mariota and his Oregon Ducks did it. So it should be. I think Utah is just much better, well-rounded team. I think their loss is probably more fluky. I don't even know who they lost to, but I think that's
Utah lost to USC.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a fluky loss. It was pretty fluky.
Yes.
And I think it was one of those late, USC came back and beat them.
USC had a third string quarterback come in and just tear them up for whatever reason. It was really weird. It was only game. Their defense really played bad. I think Utah wins. I think Oregon keeps it close. I think Utah wins by a field goal. Although it's going to be interesting to see how Oregon responds after really not having much to play for after losing to Arizona State.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the biggest thing, right? Arizona State, if they win that game, you play Utah, you have a chance
for the playoffs.
You were talked about being one of the teams that in there, and then you lose to Auburn late after really dominating that game. And then Auburn ends up being a really good team, so that loss doesn't look as bad. And you have Alabama taking 2 losses, so they're out. And that just opens the door for everybody.
Yep.
And I think Georgia's going to have a second loss. So, again, the door is going to be open. And, boy, that just stinks real bad for Oregon. Yeah, how much do they play? Who do they play? Or, excuse me, not who do they play, but how? What kind of energy do they bring?
Yeah.
Are some of the guys thinking about the next level or wrapped up? Who knows? So, yeah, I think Utah – wins that one.
Going into the MAC, little MACtion.
All right, some MACtion.
This is a local game. Will be played at Ford Field. Local for me. Will be played at Ford Field in Detroit. Central Michigan versus Miami of Ohio. Central Michigan, the local team, will get 7 points. This game opened as 2.5-point favorites. It has gotten a big, little bit of a boost in Central Michigan's side, so kind of interesting to see where the money is in this, but I don't have that info, unfortunately. I will take Central to beat Miami of Ohio and cover.
I'm going to take Miami of Ohio to cover. And my only explanation is the MACtion is crazy, and I think there's definitely been some blowouts, but when the good teams, get that MACtion going against each other, it's crazy. And it's close. So I think it's a close game. I don't know anything about either of these teams. I'm only basing this assumption and this pick off of the craziness of decent MACtion teams going head-to-head.
Yeah, agreed. So the Sun Belt Conference, Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns going to Appalachian State. Appalachian State is favored by 6.5. They played earlier this year. App State won 17-7. Me personally, I will take App State to cover. I've watched this team a few times this year, and I really like what I see.
Yeah, I agree. Appalachian State is just one of those programs that's just super good. I think everyone can remember the time they went to Michigan and beat the Wolverines at the Big House, the blocked field goal getting returned.
Awesome. That is like such a perfect transition because we're going to go into the Conference USA where UAB, as I mentioned on the Michigan State pod, goes to Florida Atlantic. And funny that you bring up Appalachian State. The game I was at, Michigan State UAB, was the day Michigan lost to Appalachian State, and they announced on the big board and everything that Michigan just got upset by Appalachian State, and the crowd went crazy. So perfect transition for you. UAB travels to Florida Atlantic to play Lane Kiffin's Florida Atlantic Owls, I believe. Both coaches here have probably a good opportunity to go to Power 5 school. Florida Atlantic is giving them 7. Just because I know Lane Kiffin and that his teams can score, I'm going to take Florida Atlantic.
I'm taking Florida Atlantic as well, and I like Lane Kiffin. I think he's kind of funny. He's a really good offensive mind, and then also a good buddy of mine in college. So Purdue has Breakfast Club. We would go, quote unquote, to Breakfast Club on vacation. So we would just dress up in board shorts and tank tops, sunglasses, and we said we went to FAU. Go Owls. So Lane Kiffin's half the pick, and the Vacation Breakfast Club, FAU, go Owls.
FAU, go Owls. I love it. I love these little tidbits we're having, and me, UAB.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Baylor, Oklahoma in the Big 12 had a wild game a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Where Baylor blew a 28-3 lead, which made me feel better because that was the same day Michigan State blew a 28-3 lead. So take that. You 8.5. I go with Baylor here. I think they've proven they can keep up with Oklahoma, and I think Baylor actually wins this game. So I will take Baylor to cover and to win.
Whoo, the parlay pick, if you will. Boy, I don't know what I can do about who's going to win this game, but I'm definitely picking Baylor against the spread here. Oklahoma has failed to cover. I mean, they failed to cover against TCU. They failed to cover against Iowa State. Failed to cover against Baylor. Obviously, they come back and win that game. They covered against Oklahoma State, which was a little bit surprising. Big rivalry game, Mike Gundy, mullet, all that stuff. But I just, Baylor is a really good team, and I don't think anyone talks about them because of the Art Briles, that whole thing with them. And they're actually a really good team. So Baylor covers for sure. Oklahoma's not going to win by more than 3 points. Boy, but if you ask me who wins outright, I guess gun to my head, I would say Oklahoma wins the game. Just because Jalen Hurts and CeeDee Lamb are just unbelievable duo. And I think Utah's going to be paying really close attention to this. Yep. If Utah blows Oregon out or really does well, and the Big 12 game is a little closer, I think Utah will get in over the Big 12 winner. So. I'm going Baylor covering the spread. Gun to my head, Oklahoma wins, but don't pick that 8.5 or whatever. Yikes! That's a no for me.
Yeah, I agree. Cincinnati travels to Memphis. They just played last week. This is a tough one for me. I think Cincinnati is a good football team, but I think Memphis is really good. I think Cincinnati keeps it close for most of the game, but I can easily see Memphis winning by 10, which the spread is 9.5. So I will take Memphis to win and cover.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know much. I know Purdue plays Memphis next year. Memphis is really good right now. I know Cincinnati under Luke Fickell have done really well as well. But if they just played last week,
yeah.
It's not like you're going to be able to do much else.
Speaking of playing someone next year, and this is completely unrelated to Purdue, but I'll forget to tell you if I don't say it now. Michigan State plays Miami next year, like Miami, Florida.
Oh, wow.
Home and home. I didn't know that until like 3 weeks ago. But sorry for the interruption.
No, 2 dumpster fire programs going at it and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait. It probably was a really attractive matchup 4 years ago, but
you're right, exactly. We'll see. Maybe the ship will get righted for both sides there.
Yeah, we'll see about that. The SEC.
Yeah, Memphis. Memphis covers. Memphis covers for me.
SEC, Georgia, LSU, 7.5. They're giving Georgia. I think LSU rolls Georgia. I'd take LSU and the points.
Yes, I double pick money line LSU. LSU blows them out. The Joe Burrow train is absolutely real. He is a stud. Georgia's offense is absolute garbage. They probably feel horrible that they let Justin Fields go and watch Fromm struggle. Georgia, I don't think they didn't cover. They covered against Georgia Tech, which I was actually shocked at. But really, their offense has been abysmal. I don't think they've covered outside of those guys. So kind of like an Oklahoma situation. But boy, yeah, I'm all in on the Tigers. I think LSU wins the national championship. I'll just say it right now. Their offense is just so good. I don't think anybody can stop them. They're just so balanced. Joe Burrow's just absolutely crushing it. His receivers are good. His running back's amazing. His line's good. LSU's defense, not that great. They clamped down really hard against A&M, but
dude, I cannot. I really hope we get to see OSU versus LSU, a shootout, and
that would be a hell of a matchup.
Oh man,
yes.
But
I think the Ohio State team is better on paper. I think they're more well-rounded on defense, but again, it's Joe Burrow magic against his former team.
Dude, the storyline.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm all in on LSU. Ed Ogeron, can't understand a word he says except for the end. Go Tigers.
So. I disagree. I think Ohio State wins the Natty, but we'll break that down next week. We'll say the Big Ten for last, since we covered the Big Ten. ACC, Virginia and Clemson. Clemson favored by 29. Yikers. I will take Virginia to not lose by 29, but to lose by like 24. So Clemson wins, but does not cover.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Clemson found their stride. All this worry, I think everyone was so worried about Clemson after the North Carolina game and having to stuff a 2-point conversion, which was a terrible call, by the way, by Mac Brown. I have no idea why you would run an option there. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But almost the same situation last year, right? Against Syracuse at home, Trevor Lawrence gets knocked out of the game, and you have a backup quarterback basically lead you back and win the game, and then you crush everyone after that. Same thing. Trevor Lawrence didn't have a great day. He didn't get knocked out of the game, but he did not look good, and they survived. But since that game, they have literally been crushing everybody that they have played. So, yeah, I agree. I think Virginia covers. I think they lose. They can lose by 4 touchdowns and cover. So, Clemson's definitely rolling into the playoff undefeated. Congrats to Virginia for winning their side of the ACC, and I'm pretty sure because they did that. I don't know what side of the ACC that's called. I don't think it's the Coastal Division. I think it's Clemson. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that they've had a different winner in like the past 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
Virginia Tech, Virginia, Pitt, and then somebody else before that. So
Michigan State will probably Pitt in the bowl game, which will be an interesting storyline at the Pinstripe Bowl because Narduzzi is D'Antonio's disciple.
Oh.
But kind of disappointed. I wanted Michigan State to go to the Quick Lane Bowl so I can go to it. But, whatever. It's cool. Last game, Big Ten, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Really wanted to see Ohio State, Minnesota, but again, whatever. Row the boat. Ohio State's favored by 16. They rolled Wisconsin at home 38-7 earlier in the year. Wisconsin can't keep up with Ohio State. Ohio State wins big. Go Buckeyes, yes. I guess, whatever.
Yes, Buckeyes cover. Again, obviously 38-7. They won after everyone thought Wisconsin was the second coming of one of the great Alabama defenses that didn't let LSU pass the 50. They really stuck it to them.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to just happen again. I think Wisconsin's defense is not that great. I think they had a great start, but it's not been as good. Jonathan Taylor is their offense. You stop him. How is Jack Cohn going to beat you? He's not, is the answer to that question. Chase Young eats. Ohio State's defense thrives. Justin Fields gets pulled by midway through the third quarter. And Ohio State rolls. Wisconsin again.
And then Ohio State wins, 3 in a row?
Yeah, I believe
Penn State won 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because Ohio State got really mad. No, that was last year. They got held out of the playoff because they lost to Purdue.
Speaking of Purdue, go David Blau.
Yeah, he is. I mean, David Blau, is he the next? I don't know any great Lions quarterbacks outside of Stafford, but I mean, is he? Is David Blau the next Barry Sanders of quarterbacks for the Lions?
Ooh, I fucking sure hope so. That'd be fucking something, man. He moves in the pocket really well.
That's what he does. I think the biggest thing with him is his success is the ability to mentally process the game is such a big thing, and going through your reads. He can do that.
It helps having Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay for sure.
Yeah, absolutely does. And both Scarborough being really good
not to turn this into a Lions podcast, but they're leading the NFL still, I think. Both of them have 9 touchdowns. And we have 3 wins, so that's fun.
Hey, you know what? There's always next year.
Awesome. I am miserable on football. I need something.
You could be 3-9-1 and at least know who you are, or you could be 6-6, the Cowboys. You can't beat a team with a winning record, and you just want you have someone like the Carolina Panthers that fires a really good head coach, and then you have our team holding on to Jason Garrett, and he's like, yeah, he's going to coach through the rest of the year. So we're probably going to make the playoffs because the Eagles suck. They lost to the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. And we're going to win the division. We're going to get like San Francisco at home because basically every other top team in the NFL and the NFC has like 2 losses. So we're going to get a really good team. We're going to get stomped. And then hopefully Garrett gets fired after that.
There you go.
See. Yeah. Dak Prescott leads the league in passing, and we're 6-6.
Nice. So, it's been fun.
Yeah. And we can probably get a 1,000-yard rusher, 1,000-yard receiver, and a 4,000-yard passer, and we're 6-6. Hopefully 7-6, but you have all that and you're 7-6. Anyway, not Cowboys podcast either, but that had to be said. It had to be. Any last thoughts?
No, man. Just glad to have you back, buddy.
Hey, good to be back, man. Good to be back. So as always, and it's good to say it again, I'm Austin, co-host John Emmons. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you heard tonight, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Voice of the Fan, and also give us a listen on SoundCloud. And if you could, like our page on Facebook at Voice of the Fan, and follow us on Twitter at Voice of the Fan PC. Thanks, everyone.